Good morning and welcome to the AEM WebEx regarding conflict minerals. My name is John Wagner. I'm the Director of Materials Management for the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, and in that role, it is my responsibility to work with our membership on issues regarding regulatory compliance management, and one of those items that fall under my area of responsibility is conflict minerals, along with REACH and RoHS and some other issues. So today we're going to be talking about conflict minerals, and over the next hour we're going to strive to put a little bit more clarity to the conflict minerals area, keeping in mind that this should not be taken as any sort of legal advice. As always, you should take the information that we are sharing, and if you find something that you feel is actionable in your company, you will want to run it by your legal counsel to ensure that it fits within the parameters that you're comfortable with doing. What I can tell you is that we will have a copy of the presentation available after this presentation that you can get access to. What I would like you to do, just as a matter going forward, is if you have questions along the way, go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we will answer as many of them as we can as we go forward, and I will try to answer some along the way, but in the end, there is a section set aside to answer those questions, and we'll deal with as many of those as we can within the time allotted. So again, thank you for participating and being here and taking the time to join us, and we'll go ahead and get started on the program now. In today's environment that you're all dealing with, as you can see from this chart from compliance and risk on global regulations by subject, we've had to deal with things as far back as 2003 with the RoHS 1. In 2006, REACH was enacted. But you can see that there is, in a cumulative manner, there are many, many regulations and issues that we have to deal with. And conflict minerals came into effect in 2010. Here we are in 2015. We're finishing up our second year of reporting requirements. In June, the 2014 reporting is due, and people are already thinking about 2015. And so that's where we are, and we're going to concentrate on conflict minerals and some of the issues surrounding it. Now, in an hour's time, we can't clear up everything, but we can talk about some things that will help people move forward. So our agenda today, we want to do an overview of conflict minerals, where they come from, where they can be found in your products, some challenges in reporting, and we're going to look at the CMRT and give an overview of that, and concentrate on some of the questions and give some advice there. The information that you will be seeing today is accumulation of the best knowledge of some of our member organizations and what they've learned over the past couple of years, as well as input from the Conflict-Free Sourcing Initiative. And they're the people who wrote the CMRT. They've been involved with answering the questions there and what are acceptable answers, what are not. And so a lot of the information that you'll hear at that time comes from right from CFSI. And is the best advice that we can give people right now on some of those questions and how to answer them properly. So, you know, conflict minerals, and AEM has a conflict minerals training program. what makes ours different is it represents, as I just said, the best thoughts of AEM members and industry experts. It provides the knowledge and tools to acquire necessary reporting data. It's going to enable members to pass the same training through their supply chain. It increases the quality of the data submitted and that you submit and that you receive, and it enables some traceability of training without jeopardizing supply chain confidentiality. Everything that we're sharing today is out of that training, although we will not get anywhere near into all of it. You will get a feel for what's in there and the depth that's provided. So we know that this conflict minerals came from the DoddFrank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act in 2010, and it deals with tin, tungsten, tantalum, and gold, and specifically about those minerals coming from and originating from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and its adjoining countries. And this is referred to commonly as a regional country of origin inquiry that most of you are familiar with. The SEC then passed a set of rules that defines our responsibilities in order to comply with this act, and the rules require publicly traded companies to report number one, a description of the measures taken by the company to exercise due diligence and determine the source and chain of custody of conflict minerals, and a description of the product manufactured and contracted to be manufactured that are not DRC conflict free. Okay, hang on just a second. So where is exactly the DRC? It's in Africa. It's the surrounding countries. And even if you have those minerals from outside those areas, you need to track them back to their origin because they may have originated in this area. So it's a challenge that we have to look at. And let's look a little closer at the different conflict minerals and where they come from, where you might find them, and that sort of thing. So the first one that we're going to look at is tantalum. The industries where this is really prevalent are in electronics, in industrial tools, and in aerospace. Commonly, you find it in capacitors and carbide tools and jet engine components. And it's used for its high melting point and strength and ductility and its oxidation resistance, also for its electrical properties. So that's where tantalum is used in common applications. Look for it in your electronics, your industrial tools, and especially if you are in aerospace. Tin is found in electronics and automotive and industrial equipment and construction. It's very common in solders, batteries, glass, or organotins, platings, alloys, electronic components, polymer catalysts. Tin is out there in a lot of things, all right? And it's used in bearings for its lubricity. It's also used in ductile iron and other metal alloys to improve machinability, and it also may be in the metal insert in a seal due to its flexibility. So tin is one of those things that seems to be everywhere. You need to keep an eye out for it. And it's used, all of these are used because of their properties and what they bring to the functionality of your piece of equipment. Next up is wolframite or tungsten. Again, you see it's in electronics. It's used in lighting and industrial machinery. It's found in metal wires and welding and alloys and electrodes and contacts, and it's widely used in machine tools like drill bits, and it's there for hardness and strength. So if you're looking for where tungsten might be, you want to concentrate on those wires, electrodes, contacts, look at your welding applications and alloys. Gold, again, in the electronics industry, aerospace, in jewelry, not so much for us in our industry, but definitely electronics and aerospace. Commonly, it's used for electronic plating, PCBs, and contacts and connectors. It has great electrical properties and very high oxidation resistance. So look for it in those areas. And as you can see, one of the running themes through this whole process is look in your electronics. Electronics is where a lot of these things are located. Now, of course, to get the right answer and to find out where we are with this whole process, you have to be able to look and request down through your supply chain. One of the things that we have learned about our supply chains in our industry is that the average one is 11 layers deep before you get to a smelter or before you get to the, the raw material stage. And some go as deep as 22. So it's a huge, huge challenge. There's a due diligence process that has been recommended to get to that smelter of origin, and I'm sure that you have all found that one of our biggest challenges is how do we reach down through the supply chain and make sure that we get the accurate and complete data back up through it. One of the things that we're using to be able to collect that, and the most common way of trying to collect that information, is with the conflict minerals reporting template, the CMRT. And the CMRT made by the Conflict-Free Sourcing Initiative is the reporting tool of choice. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the specific questions that are on there, because how you answer it and why you answer it a particular way are very important. So, for instance, down in section 2, you find a lot of different questions down through there, and you'll see that the first one is the conflict and metal intentionally added to your product? And you have an opportunity to answer that. The third question down says, does any of your conflict metal originate from the covered countries? So we'll take a look at that question a little closer and see that there are 3 different ways that you could answer that question. Yes, no, or unknown. So we're going to review each one of the ways that you could answer that question and learn a little bit more about how we should really approach this particular question. Well, if you were to answer yes, it would indicate that your conflict minerals in your products originate from the DRC or adjoining countries. Remember, the question needs to be answered based on smelter and mine information that you've received from your suppliers. And later, you'll be asked to provide all the available smelter and mine location data in the smelter list tab of the worksheet. So we need to, if we're going to say yes, we need to know that that is the correct answer. If we say no, it indicates that the conflict minerals in our products do not originate from the DRC or adjoining countries. And keep in mind that this question needs to be answered, again, based on your smelter and mine information that you've received from your suppliers. So if you have not received conflict minerals disclosures from 100% of your suppliers whose products could potentially contain conflict minerals, as in question number 5, and you do not have reason to believe that you have identified all the smelters providing conflict minerals in the metals, providing metals in the products covered by this declaration, and not all identified smelters have been verified as conflict-free in the CFSI or similar programs, then your answer to this question must be unknown. An answer of no, if those 3 conditions above are met, is incorrect. And keep in mind that later you're going to be asked to provide all available smelter and mine location data to back this up. So unless you can say yes to all of those questions, then then you want to say unknown and stay away from the answer no here, unless you can prove that that is a correct answer. So now, if we've come to the decision that we need to put unknown here, it indicates that we're not sure if your conflict metal originates from one of the covered countries. This means that 100% of all the smelters from 100% of the suppliers with conflict minerals have not been received and or reported as verified as conflict-free by the CFSI program. So that's a pretty high bar to reach, but it is possible. But you're putting unknown if you don't have 100%. The question needs to be answered based on smelter and mine information that you have received from your suppliers later, so you need to understand, again, the importance of smelter information and and really the fact that this totally depends on your downstream and how people throughout your supply chain understand the same questions and how to answer them and understand what it is that we're asking for. So if we go back to the conflict minerals reporting template, and we have in front of us that template again, and we look at question 5 as referred to in number 3, have you received conflict metals data information for each metal from all relevant suppliers of 3T&G? So there are 2 answers, yes or no, and how are we going to deal with this, and what does yes mean and what does no answer mean, and how do we decide how to answer that? Well, if you have, if you say yes, if you selected yes, it indicates that you have received responses from 100% of your relevant suppliers of 3T&G. The key question is the definition of relevant suppliers, and this leaves the determination of scope for the inquiry into the supply chain up to each individual company. So some companies inquire of their entire supply chain, while others make a predetermination as to who they will ask for information. For our purposes, we need to make sure that we all define relevant in the same way, and we say, or recommend from CFSI, that relevant shall be interpreted to mean any supplier that could potentially have a conflict mineral in any material used in any amount, no matter how small an amount. And that's very important because there is no de minimis amount here. So, for example, if the material you receive cannot possibly contain a conflict mineral, the supplier should be considered non-relevant. And later on, we cover in our training due diligence and how you can really address those types of issues. Number 5, if you answer the question no, you have selected no, it means that it will require further breakdown of the CMRT itself. You will be required to indicate the following: no, but greater than 75%, no, but greater than 50%, no, but greater than 25, no, but less than 25, or none. The answer that is typically acceptable is none. You are not able to provide complete and accurate data to your customers if you have not received information from your own suppliers. With each of these selections, you'll be prompted to continue to work with your supply chain in order to receive adequate conflict minerals data. We definitely want to continue to strive to get to that level that we want to be at, that we have 100%. One of the key components is the definition of relevant suppliers again, and that leaves the determination of the scope into the supply chain up to each individual company. Some companies choose to inquire from their entire supply chain, and others make a predetermination as to who they will ask for information from. Again, that's up to you. It's determined by your product. It's determined by your exposure, where you source things from, and leaves you a decision point right there. For our purposes, we want to define relevant as interpreted to mean any supplier that could potentially have a conflict mineral in any material used in any amount, no matter how small an amount. So as an example, if the material you receive can't possibly contain a conflict mineral, the supplier would be considered non-relevant. You'll learn more about how to do that, or you can learn more in our due diligence area and by checking out the due diligence of the OCD process. So those are, our best guidance on how to answer whether yes or no in that particular answer. So another one we wanted to touch base with is question number 7. Has all applicable smelter information received by your company been reported in this declaration? So again, there are different ways to answer that question. You can answer it yes, you could answer it no, and you could answer it unknown. Let's take a look at what each answer means and the reasoning why you would want to use those answers. So yes means that it indicates that you are confident that you have received all applicable smelter information and have reported this information accurately. Sometimes companies incorrectly answer no to this question. So possible reasons might mean removing duplicate smelters, editing smelters with incomplete information or known errors. Another example could be your products may not contain certain conflict minerals, but your supplier has reported to you on a company-wide basis that included products that contain those metals. And if your product does not contain a given conflict mineral, then no smelter for that metal should be listed. So, so you need to keep that in mind. And these are things that become important in your reporting process, and hopefully some of this can help you make a better choice on how to answer that, and also on how to evaluate the information that's coming to you from your supply chain. Oops. So what if we say no? If we selected no, that indicates that we have not reported all applicable smelter information received by our company, and you'll need to provide a brief explanation of regarding why you didn't include all smelter information, and possible answers could be that you're removing duplicate smelters, or we're editing smelters with incomplete information or known errors. And the example is pretty much the same as the one given before. It's your products may not contain certain conflict minerals, but your supplier has reported to you on a company-wide basis. And that's where it becomes very important for you to know what's in your product and how your suppliers are reporting to you, and what it is that you get from those suppliers. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the answers and as you're answering your own form. For unknown, if you selected unknown, it indicates that you have not reported all applicable smelter information received by your company. You'll need to provide a brief explanation why you did not include the smelter information. You see similar things here as to why that might be, including duplicate smelters and incomplete information or known errors. And again, it comes down to understanding what it is that you've asked for, what is actually in your product, and what it is that the company is reporting to you in the process of working with you to get this, get the information. So keeping in mind who you're asking for information from, what are they supplying with you. You can't just look at something and blindly report it. You need to understand what you're asking for, who you're asking for it from, what are they supplying you. Are they supplying you information that directly addresses what they are supplying you for your product, or are they doing it on a company-wide basis in which they may be supplying those metals to some other companies, but not necessarily to you, and your ability to understand that and to edit those responses so that it fits what it is that you're providing is important. So there's a level of intelligence that we have to apply to what we're asking and what we're receiving and what we're reporting and going forward. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. This is not just saying to all of my suppliers, I need you to tell me if you are supplying me any of this information, and I'll get it back all the way to a smelter. You know, this is a huge challenge for the industry to reach all the way back there. We have people like the Conflict-Free Sourcing Initiative that are starting at the smelter end of things and working with them to, so we're coming at this from a couple of different routes, and we have to penetrate deep into the supply chain to make sure that everybody has the same understanding of what we're asking for and how to report it. And from your own experience, you know that to report on a product basis or to report on a company-wide basis, they all have their challenges. This is a very complex ask that we're making, and an understanding and consolidating and reporting effort that is very complex and that we have to deal with very carefully as we go forward. And we're expected on a year-over-year basis to make improvements in the process to where we see challenges in data coming to us that we put into place processes to be able to improve that information coming to us. And those are areas where you have to sit back and say, so how can I potentially mitigate the risk for my company? And a lot of that has to do with being able to understand what your challenges are. Before we go on to mitigating the company's risk, because that's where we're going to get into some of the questions, some of the answers from what AEM has available to help you to be able to deal with this. Let's see if we can't answer some of the questions that are out there. If you have other questions about what we've covered so far, go ahead and put those into the Q&A area. Somebody has asked, pointed out that the commentary is valuable. Can we have this WebEx session recorded? It actually is being recorded, and we will have a copy of it up on our website that you can get access to and listen to it again. I know that we've covered a lot of detail here, so that would, in essence, be something that would be helpful, I think. What if the metal that is supplied has a recycled element? That's a good question. I don't know the answer right off the top of my head. I know that there are specific answers to that, and something that we will look into and try to find an answer for that specific question. Are there any other questions that we have? Could you define necessary to the production of supplier states it is not necessary, but the composition calls out specific percentages of tin, aluminum, and die cast? Again, that's a very good question. The question necessary for production has to do with does it have to be there for fit, form, and function? So there are specific answers for that. I know that that's something that we will need to get an answer to, and what I will commit to is that we will get specific answers for these questions and put those on our website along with the presentation in a PowerPoint format and with the recorded version, so I can get you the best possible answer for that. Any other questions? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, oh, there's a question. How do you identify exempt inventory that was purchased prior to 1/31/13? Again, that comes from Tom. Tom, we will get you an answer for that and put it on our answers to the questions on our website. And also, the next question is interesting. It says, I'm a private company. Does this affect me? What the law says is that if you're a private company, you don't have to report on your own. However, you are obligated, if you are in a supply chain, to report up through to who you supply. So, in other words, you are required to report that to an OEM that you provide products to. However, you don't have to report directly to the SEC. So that's currently where the thinking is on that. Hopefully that's helpful. But you cannot, it does still affect you, although you don't have to report to the SEC. You do have to share that information and provide it to an OEM or to one of the people that you supply that's required, that is asking for the information from you. You are not, you can't just say it doesn't affect me. So we at AEM, in order to help your company mitigate its risk, we've got a couple of things that we are doing. One of the things you need to do is stay on top of what's going on in all of these different areas. And we at AEM have put together a regulated substances brief. It provides timely compliance information. It comes out on a monthly basis. It is a subscription-based product, and we have partnered with Compliance and Risk. Compliance and Risk is one of the world's leading experts on compliance and regulatory changes globally. They have a huge database that they continue to update on an ongoing basis, and we have asked them to pull on that out of it on a monthly basis, the things that could impact our industry with regards to European reach, conflict minerals, RoHS, and then on other issues that are hot at the moment. So, for instance, in recent issue, it was shared that RoHS now has added six additional chemicals that it is regulating, including 4 phthalates, of which one is called DEHP, which is a plasticizer. The reason I bring up DEHP is because it is also one of the SVHCs within REACH that's on the authorization list, and it is just in February of this year, it has had its sunset date, which means that as of February of 2015, it can no longer be in any products that are manufactured in Europe. So if you're a European manufacturer and you're putting hoses or PVC or anything that has polyvinyl chloride or like wiring harnesses or rubber hoses or plastic tubes or anything like that, then you can no longer use DEHP as a plasticizer. However, if you are supplying an outside of the EU firm and you're supplying products that have DEHP in it into Europe, you can continue to do that, but you have to report on is it in there and in what concentration, and and measure the amounts that you're sending in over time to be able to be compliant. So what's happened with it being part of ROS means that by 2019, in any ROS covered product, you have to totally eliminate DEHP from that product, and it really pushes the fact that we need to engineer DEHP out of those products or make sure that we understand it, because the questions are going to be asked and we need to answer them, and with the scarcity of DEHP, the price of that will increase, so we have to start looking for alternatives. That type of information is covered in the regulatory regulated substances brief, and we recommend it highly. The second thing is you need to have, and as you can see with the complexity of what you're being asked to deal with, you need to really look at having an internal regulatory compliance program. We have training and a program put together here at AEM available to both our member organizations and their supply chains, other organizations as well that have an interest, to help you be able to put some organization around all of the various compliance that you need to keep track of, and providing a good how-to on being able to do that. So those are ways that we at AEM are helping companies to mitigate their risk in these areas, along with the WebExes like this one and others that are available to you to come in and listen and get some tips as we go along. I have another question here I'm going to answer. It says, is that a legal obligation to report to our customers? It's not legal. It is a business obligation. So it's a, as far as being legal obligation, again, that's something that you would need to talk with your corporate counsel to decide if that's a way you want to go. But many companies are looking at requiring information to be supplied with things that they're asking for. So in other words, the shape of the world is changing in what we're being asked to provide along with our products. So if I'm supplying a big OEM, and nowadays I'm no longer just supplying the widget, I'm supplying the widget and all of the relevant information about what is in my product, in what concentrations, especially as it relates to any of these regulated substances like that are covered by REACH or RoHS or conflict minerals. So I'm really selling to them not just the actual physical product, but a package of information to go along with that. And that is really the changes that have occurred in the past several years, and it's going to get more complex, and it's going to, I think, become more prevalent that you're going to see companies requiring you to not only provide the widget, but the widget and all the information about it. There are many different ways to look at how you provide that, what you provide, that sort of thing, and AEM is currently working with a steering group of our member organizations to really help to define how to do a better job of that, because right now what we can see is that conflict minerals, there are many, many companies out there that are requesting the information from their supply chain, and they're asking for it in many different ways, many different formats. I can tell you of one company that I know of that has been asked to provide the same information in 12 different formats, and that becomes something that is a burden. It's a complexity that it adds to the cost. If we can reduce that complexity, then we can do something really good for the industry. That's one of the things that we're striving for. I see another question here. It says, do you have any suggestions on how to obtain complete CMRT from a distributor? Specifically electronic distributors, we are pointed in the direction of the manufacturer, but we do not choose the manufacturer from which the product is purchased. Suggestions on how to obtain a complete CMRT from a distributor. You know, that is a challenge. What we need to do, I think, is educate distributors to what I was just talking about. Distributors traditionally take in products and from different manufacturers and are the outlet from those. We need to really educate them on the fact that I'm not just buying from you this widget. I need the widget and all the information around it that goes towards compliance issues, especially regulatory ones, because it's all about market access. In order for me to be able to take this product and purchase it, put it as part of my overall product and sell that into some of these marketplaces today like Europe, even here in the U.S. with conflict minerals and other areas, I'm not just buying that piece, I'm buying the whole product. And the whole product nowadays means the information package that helps me to be able to answer the questions of what's in my product, how much is in it, what's it being used for, where will it be used, and so forth, so that we can move that through the supply line, including those issues. That's where I think training comes into the plan, the ability to have a training program that can reach down into a supply chain. And there's a very proprietary nature to the supply chain's identity. So we need to be able to have something that can reach through there and honor that. And we at AEM have put together what we call our AEM Market Access Pathway Learning Management System that allows you to do that, to invite in suppliers like distributors, where distributors could then invite in the companies that they're distributing products from, so that we can all have a better understanding of why we're being asked for this. And it goes back to the fact that in the past, in the 80s and 90s, it was incumbent upon the person who was injured by something to be able to prove that there was a fault of the supplier. Nowadays, it is our responsibility as a manufacturer to prove that what we're providing is safe. And as that goes along, that same responsibility penetrates into the supply chain, so that the supply chain itself needs to truly understand that, again, I'm saying it, another time, but the information, the best information, the most complete and accurate information comes from the part of the supply chain that originally puts something into a product. So they know what's in there, they know what quantity it's in there in, and they need to be able to report that accurately going up. Now, whether that is to say we have no SVHCs in here, or whether it's to at some point get to a full material disclosure while keeping, sacred some of the secret sauce, some of the trade secrets of what makes your product unique, and being able to update that information, it provides a whole new challenge to the industry. But as with any journey, the first step is how we get started on it, no matter how far that journey is. And part of that original first step needs to be an understanding of that this information is no longer something that's optional, it's a part of what we need to do business. I have another question here. It says, as an independent distributor who gets material from OCM, CM, excess, manufacturers will not share information unless bought directly from them. How are we expected to comply with an information request? Well, that's a good question. It's one of the challenges that we have to address. I don't have an answer for it right now. I understand that that's a challenge, and perhaps education may be part of that answer, but I don't think it's the whole answer. I think in the end it's going to take a change in expectations and understanding from the entire supply chain. What I can say is this: I think we are at a place right now with regulatory compliance that we were back in the 70s with quality training. Not a lot of companies thought that quality training or quality was going to be one of those things that would add value to their companies, but over time it's been proven that quality programs have reduced costs and have increased the value that a company can deliver. And I think that this too will be an area that turns into not just a way to bring value to your company, but also turns into a differentiator, and it turns into something that will become a common business practice going forward. And those that understand that and that can help make that happen and work towards addressing some of the issues like this distributor issue about the information, we know that we have to get past some of these barriers of being concerned about what's going to happen to my information. How do I protect the issues that are what differentiate me from any of my competition, what gives my product its specialness? How do I protect that and still share the information that's necessary to be able to answer the questions about compliance? And those are the issues that we here at AEM and our members are tackling in our work that we're doing towards regulatory compliance management. We don't have the answers, but one thing that I can tell you is that we do need to collect a lot of these types of issues so that as we're formulating a process, as we're formulating an answer, that we have those questions in front of us to be able to address those as we're putting together our recommended solution. So thank you very much for bringing that particular item up. that really brings to a close. Well, here's a little view of the MAP program. One of the things that we're doing is we've created a learning management platform that allows you to see down into your supply chain. But as you'll notice, beyond the tier 1s here, those companies are just identified by company ABC, but you can see, have they done the training, how far into the supply chain has it gone, and it allows you to get common training as far down into the supply chain as you can reach. So it honors it's items like this, it is tools like this that will help facilitate the passing of knowledge down through the supply chain that will help us to get over some of these challenges. If you have any other questions, I'll take those through the question and answer sheet. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you all for your participation today. Hopefully you have gained some information that can help you be more effective with your conflict minerals reporting and challenges. And I suspect that we've opened up more questions with the answers that we've given you, but we are here to help in any way we can. So I would like to say thank you, and if there are no more questions, let me check here one more time. What penalties are in place if compliance is not met? For conflict minerals, it was all really about letting people know that you were non-compliant or that you would let people know. So it's kind of a naming and shaming. What I can tell you is that as far as I know, there are no other penalties. What I would expect, though, is that as more people learn about what conflict minerals is and the fact that we have a conflict minerals program that is coming up in Europe. Europe has decided that conflict minerals is something that they would like to see reporting on. It's not going to be something that is required, but it is going to be something that is a voluntary basis. And usually when things like that happen, we start to see compliance. U.S. companies might have an advantage here in that they are ahead of the game. Multinationals that sell into the U.S. that are public companies may have an advantage to be able to say to people, hey, we can report on conflict minerals. So it's a complex question. It's about risk mitigation. Are there penalties out there that could cause you some pain? That's something that you have to evaluate on a company-by-company and individual-by-individual basis. And that's where you need to talk to your corporate counsel to decide what your risk, what you're willing to take on, and if that's something that you want to do. These are challenging issues. They are issues that will be with us for a long time, and we at AEM are committed to working towards solutions that will deal with how do we do this into the future and make it something that is doable and can add value to our industry. Two last questions, and then I'll sign off. Based on our electronic supplier data, we already have nearly 85% of the approved smelters in our template. Is it realistic to assume that we will ever be able to say we have 100% of our smelter data? I think it's realistic. I think that because of the ongoing work that's being done by CFSI to approve smelters, to get them get more of them onto their list on a monthly basis, that I think that it is possible. Congratulations on having nearly 85%. That's a great mark already. And then the next question and last question is, has this process been effective in reducing the funding of conflict nations? Not the nations that they were going after, it was the warlords that were using this to fund their fighting. There are positives that have come out of this, and I believe it's having an effect. I think you can go online and Google that and find some interesting information on it. Is it the most effective way to accomplish what they want to accomplish? I think that's debatable, but it is having a positive impact. There are also, unintended consequences, as with everything. But what I can say is that, in my experience and from what I've heard, there are positive things that are happening because of this attention that's being brought to the issue. So again, thank you for spending the last hour with us. I appreciate your attendance. Hopefully you've learned something. If you need more information, please contact us, and we here at AEM will continue to work with our member organizations to address the issues that we're all facing, because we know that this is something that we need to deal with to be effective moving forward and be better as an industry to be able to address these challenges, to keep the burden of on our supply chains as minimal as possible. So thank you again,